Hey everybody, what's going on? Thank you for tuning into this video, and I'm thanking God that you're watching this video as well, because I feel that this is an important topic to be able to share with you, especially in this day and age. There's a lot of fear, and that's the topic of this video. I wrote a note on January 8th in 2020, before the pandemic, before masks, before quarantine, before all these businesses went out of business, before all of this stuff happened. There was still a lot of fear in the world, but there's a lot more fear that we can see now in the world today. And especially if you're watching, the news, there's a lot of fearful news out there. So I want to let you know about what I wrote on January 8th, before this pandemic started, about the topic of fear. I talked about 3 fears that I see in the world today that I feel have too much influence in a negative way. The first one is the fear of money. A lot of people have all of their faith and trust in their portfolio on this earth today and how much money they have. So when money is rising, their emotions rise, their emotions become more happy. When money is dropping, they have fear, they have worry, they have grief, even depression and anxiety. And so this fear of money is something that can be really unhealthy. If that is your form of worship in this life, if you have emotional reactions to the rising of money and the falling of money, then that is kind of giving money power over you. And sure, money gives you a lot of power in this world. We see that, and it can be both negative and positive. In fact, in the Bible, it says that when we have an inheritance, when we have something that we can give to our family when we die, then that is something that is good. That's something that we should be working towards. And so this leads to the second fear that I see in the world. It's the fear of death. People are afraid of death because of two main reasons that I see. That's one, misunderstanding, a lack of understanding of where we are placed in the afterlife, if there is an afterlife in general. The whole topic of, or philosophy of when we die, there's nothingness. When we die, we just go into the fertilizer pit. Then that is, something that can make someone very fearful to die. This is the only chance that we get to live our life, and that can lead to negative outcomes, negative philosophies, where we're only living for our own pleasure, where we're living selfishly. It can lead to a lot of negative things, and I think that it can be really unhealthy to, have that type of philosophy where we have to be afraid of death, afraid of what's coming, because we just don't understand it. I believe we can have the ability to understand more closely and have a greater faith in the afterlife, and one that is good. And so this, again, is very biblical, and I think that's pretty obvious. But at the same time, we cannot think that, our own actions cause us to get to heaven or cause us to go to hell. That has something to do with it, yes. But our actions are stemming from our heart. And what's in our heart is what's going to determine our place in the afterlife. If we reject goodness, if we reject love, if we are not loving, then we have a much higher chance of going to a very negative place in the afterlife. I'm not saying that I know, where that cutoff is. I don't know if there even is a cutoff. The cutoff is the justice of God, right? God determines, God knows what's in our hearts. He knows every action that we do. He knows what we've done that's good, what we've done that's bad. And trust me, I've committed sin that would place me in hell, if that's what I was going on to, determine my place in the afterlife. I am not a good person. I don't believe there is anyone who is good as far as a human being, but God himself is good. His character is good, and his justice is good. We know he is just, and he's going to place people in the afterlife, whether they've heard about Jesus Christ or not. It's his determination that places us in the afterlife. And so that is the second fear. The third fear is the fear of life. It's the opposite of death. It's the fear of living. And so what do I mean by this? It's the fear of, social interaction. It's the fear of loving. It's the fear of having a life that we need to work hard to accomplish. And this is something that can cause a lot of laziness. If we're afraid to live, if we're afraid of the goals that we have in life and reaching those goals, then that can definitely hold us back. And that's the negative aspect of the fear of life. And so those three fears I wrote a note on before this whole pandemic started. There was still a lot of fear in this world. There's always been a lot of fear in this world as far as its fallen state. Fear is something that can be very, very unhealthy in this world. Naturally, on the natural side of things, fight or flight is a natural reaction that we have. And so there's a good aspect of fear. But if we have this fight or flight, it can actually break us down. That's where stress comes in. Stress leads to a lot of diseases. If we have, elongated or stress that's just constantly there in our life and we really can't overcome it, then that can lead to a lot of health decrease in human beings, in our bodies, and in our souls, in our emotions as well. And so those are some aspects of fear that can either be good or bad. Now, how can fear be good? I'm going to reflect on that a little bit more before I go into the main point of this video. The good aspects of fear is that it can be something that gives us greater understanding. It can be something that keeps us safe, allows us to make the choices that are not reckless, that do not lead to negative outcomes. And fear of, like I was talking about in the fear of death and the fear of money, fear, a healthy amount of fear, can allow us to bring an inheritance into manifestation in our lives that we can pass on to our families, no matter what we believe about after we die, what happens after we die. So there's good things that can come from fear. All right, the last and most important aspect of this video that I am so blessed and thankful to be able to share with you is what is called the fear of the Lord. The fear of the Lord is the fear of God, is the fear of this majestic, all-knowing, all-powerful being who has created us in his image to do good in this world. The fear of the Lord. It says in Job, one of the earliest books in the Bible, it says, the fear of the Lord, behold, the fear of the Lord is wisdom. That is wisdom. To depart from evil is understanding. So the fear of the Lord connects us with justice and a healthy sense of what is right and wrong, a healthy sense of what we should do and what we shouldn't do, and it allows us to depart from evil. And so now moving on to Proverbs, there's two verses I want to share with you. So the fear of the Lord leads to life, so that one may sleep satisfied, untouched by evil. So obviously this fear of the Lord isn't something that we're going to be shivering in our beds at night. We're going to be shivering because we are so scared of this God who's created us. No, it brings comfort, it brings goodness, it brings satisfaction. And so the fear of the Lord is not something that leaves us quivering and running away from God. It draws us into a relationship with God and a reverence for God, a love for God, in which we can now have more understanding in life, that we can be protected from evil. I believe the fear of the Lord honestly does protect us from evil. And it allows us to connect with repentance, allows us to say, sorry, God, for I have sinned. Sorry, God, because I have sinned against you and your good justice. God, objectively, he determines what is good. He determines what is evil. And to know good and evil is to know what is right to do, what is wrong to do. But to know the fear of the Lord is to know why we choose good versus evil. And the last verse in Proverbs is, the fear of the Lord is a fountain of life, that one may avoid the snares of death. So this is going more and more powerful as we go along. The fear of the Lord is a fountain of life. It literally is a fountain of life that allows us to connect with purpose, clarity, and how we should be walking in this earth. It allows us to be more living, more alive. And obviously that comes with all good things. And so it also helps us to avoid the snares of death. So to avoid the snares of death, that's greater than just being unsatisfied, avoiding, being unsatisfied. That's greater than avoiding evil. Because that indeed, even with all the evil we've committed in our lives, of which I've committed in my life, we can avoid the snares of death if we fear the Lord. And so the fear of the Lord is understanding. When you have the fear of the Lord, you have more life and you have more clarity on what to do versus what we should avoid. It allows us to be better people, be made more in God's image, and to be more like Jesus Christ, who had a healthy fear of the Lord, but he did not fear anything other than God himself. Thank you for watching this video. I want to invite you to inanewway.com if you liked these teachings that I was taught in my life that I was blessed to share with you on this video, then we have a lot more at inanewway.com and the OIC podcast. That's Omnipresent Information Connection. Please connect us with us there, and I will meet you on the next video, podcast, or post. Thank you for tuning in.